Hey guys, it's Mr. Mini Painter, and today I'm painting Professor Pomona Sprout from the Harry Potter game Wizarding Duels. She's a witch who was head of the Hufflepuff house and is now head of the herbology department. As you can see here, I base coated her in a gray primer as I'm going to be using some contrast paints. And it's easier to do so over a bright undercoat. So first we start off with the face, and I'm using Bugman's Glow, and of course we're going to pick the hands as well. Next is a second layer of Cadian flesh tone. We're going to leave some of the Bugman's Glow showing to create some wrinkles or whatever you want. The space between the fingers is particularly handy to be left with Bugman's Glow as you get some shading automatically. At this point I usually start, or at least attempt to paint the eyes, because if you go wrong you don't have to do the entire face all over again. So it's quite handy to do it in an early stage, and you can correct your mistakes if you need to. I used some palette witch flesh for the eyes, and I did some Abaddon black to paint in the pupils. It's very tiny as always, but so rewarding if you succeed. After this, I'm going to continue on the face by highlighting it, and for that we are going to be using some Kislev flesh. You can mix it with the previous color if you want, or just pick out the top of the fingers, the knuckles, the nose, cheekbones, the chin, etc. Everything that's sticking out or catching light. Then the hair, I gave a base coat of Mechanicus Standard Grey. There's not a lot of hair showing, but we're going to give it the attention that it needs, of course. She's wearing some ear protection to protect her ears from the Mandragora, so make sure not to paint that, as we're going to give it another color. So after we're done with the Mechanicus Standard Grey, we're going to be highlighting it with Grey Seer. And for this I used a regular brush first to paint the very bottom tips of the hair, and afterwards I gave it a dry brush on the rest of the hair. So here you see me picking out some of the details hanging down, and afterwards I used a dry brush to touch up the rest. Then use some Nano in a very thinned down version to create some extra shades in the hair. And that's it. Next we're going to be covering the majority of this model, which is under the big coat with some snakebite leather, which is a contrast paint and gives a very nice shade effect immediately. Make sure not to create puddles, as you can see here on the bottom. I smeared them out afterwards. And when you're done with this, let it dry for a few minutes and cover it with some Samazi Desert. I use it as a dry brush cover, so it doesn't really shine that much anymore, and it gives a nice yellowy look to the top of the model. After this, I'm going to continue on the wand by giving it a base color of XV88. A nice light brown. And then highlight that with some Ushabti bone. Next I used some Guilliman flesh on the Mandragora's body. And I actually gave it a couple of layers because I thought it was too bright and I wanted to darken it down without creating puddles. So I continued applying new coats to make it darker and darker. And then eventually I got the look I wanted. For the roots of the Mandragora I used Garagax Sewer, which is a bit brighter, a bit more yellowy brown. And also here I gave it several coats until I was completely satisfied. Then I went on with the pants and I gave it a base coat of dried bark. There's not many colors in this model, and make sure to give it the attention it needs because you want to make it stand out between all your other figures. And even though it's largely the big coat, is it a coat she's wearing, make sure to get the other details right. For her shoes I used Black Legion, also a contrast paint, and what I like about it is that you get some instant color differentiation. Then back to the pants with dried bark and Baylor Brown as a highlight. Pick out the raised areas, create some lines if you want. Of course they're below the rest of her coat, so there's not much light catching it, but you want to create some creases and folds. Then we're going to continue on the Mandragora and give the leaves some Caliban green base coat. And don't forget the 2 leaves on the collar of Pomona Sprout herself. Then I continued with Lorraine Forest and Mood Green. I mixed it together in about a 50-50 mix and tried to pick out the details on the leaves. So leave the creases dark and paint the raised areas of the leaves. It gives a nice highlight effect. Also do so on the leaves on the collar. After this is done, we are mixing Mood Green with some Flesh Gits Yellow to go even further. But just touch the very tips of the leaves. Then it's off to the base. Steel Legion Drab, as I use for most of my Harry Potter bases. And for this one I chose to give it a greenhouse look with some green shade, and for that I used a Athonian camo shade. And of course you can darken it with some Agrex Earthshade if you want, but I really liked this green effect on this model. And that's it for Pomona Sprout, the head of herbology. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If it was any help, please leave a comment, watch any of my other Harry Potter painting tutorials, and I thank you so much for watching this video. Bye bye!